that's probably the best advice to anybody out there is like, dude, look at the small stuff. Watch Mick. You don't look at his turn. Look at where he's looking as he enters his turn. Look where his chest is facing as he finishes his turn. Look how he transitions out of that turn. It's all these little intricate details, hand placement, breathing, everything. Like, look at the little stuff.
My guest for this episode is Adam Knox. Adam is a former pro surfer and is currently working as a surf coach in Carlsbad in Southern California. Adam is one of the best surf coaches I have personally worked with, so it is my absolute pleasure to bring you this interview. Adam shares his story, his experiences, and of course plenty of surfing tips. Give him a follow on Instagram at Adam_Knox. Are you from this area?
No, I'm from Ojai, California. So it's like inland Rincon, like 15 minutes. But also Sage Erickson's from Ojai. The Malloy brothers, they worked for my mom at the Ojai Valley Inn, like way back in the day, like when they're in high school. I'm trying to think who else is from kind of inland. Maybe that's about it. Me, Sage, and the Malloys.
Ojai is close to Ventura?
Yeah, it's inland. It's a valley, and it's like super spiritual, like I was saying, like that fire that you guys had in Malibu. Like that one, reached Ojai as well with the Santa Anas, and it has big mountains. Like there's probably snow all over them right now. But that fire came down and literally made a perfect circle around there where it usually would burn, like foothills and stuff like that. And then it just stopped. And I think I'm giving it up to like the wizards and all the crystals and stuff you'll see around here that you grew up there. You're just kind of weird like that,
Yeah. Did you start surfing there?
I started surfing. So my brother Micah was a surfer. Taylor had already moved. So Taylor moved. So I'm the youngest. Then 9 years above me is Micah, my brother I grew up with, and then Taylor is 14 years older. So I remember going down to like the Budweiser. You remember like the Bud Pro? Like that was like the QS back then. So I remember there was one at C Street. I remember being like, literally, there's a photo. I remember it though too, because Taylor gives these hugs that like crush you, especially when you're little. There's a couple times where like when your spine gets separated, I'm like crying, and then my brother Mike is like, dude, don't be lame, man. Like I'm like, I just got my back broken. I'm not trying to cry right now, man. I'm freaking 6. But anyways, he got out of this heat and gave me a hug, and I remember that. But that was what you qualified on. It was the Bud Surf Tour, and it was like. It was, I don't, not to take away from any of those guys, but it was nothing like, there was a California tour, that you could qualify on, I believe, right? But yeah, no, my brother was already famous by the time I was like, in 6th grade, 7th grade for sure. So I rode dirt bikes and I raced BMX, and I skated. I wanted nothing to do with surfing. And then I kind of did a little bit. I was longboarding, and, I got good at that. When I moved to Carlsbad, they threw me on the surf team just because of my brother. This guy, Danny Cooper.
How old were you then?
I was in 8th grade. So Taylor moved from Oxnard Shores here in 8th grade as well, which is kind of a weird coincidence, 14 years later, I guess, or maybe longer. I don't know. I'm not good with math. But they threw me into a contest, and I made the final. But then it got big. It got big at Pono, and it went from 4 feet to where I was winning all my heats, and it got really big, and no one really made it out for this. One of my friends from the Big Island, who's still a Charger, he lives on the North Shore now, Nick McRae, but he won the contest because he's the only guy that made it out the back. It was one of those things, So got 6th in my first final, and then that just kind of snowballed. I just kept doing it, and
that lit the fire.
Yeah, it kind of lit the fire. I mean, I'm kind of a weird surfer when it comes to that stuff. It's like, at that point, it was fun, and but I was so behind the 8-ball. I'm the same age as Dane Reynolds. I'm the same age as the Gadauskas, Dane and Pat, and those guys are already really good and sponsored and stuff. I didn't get good until 16, and I didn't start winning Pro Junior stuff, our circuit around here. I think I finaled and in the top 2 or 3 in every contest in the San Diego, Monster Pro Juniors and all that stuff. And then the last contest, I lost out first round, and those are usually like, double rated or triple rated. And I went from first to third in the very end, but I almost won the series and that kind of stuff. But that set me up, but really I was more of a photo guy. Like I was in, it wanted to be a magazine where I didn't have like a 2-page spread or multiple shots, and then the surf shot was on, so that was like a local mag, but it was pretty big. So I was in all that stuff. So Jet Pilot was just like, they're a wakeboard company, but they had a small surf team, but they were like one of the biggest wakeboarding companies from Australia, and Japan. They're like, dude, just do the photo thing. And then that's when photo stuff was cool, when you could survive that way. But it changed. So I went like 5-6 years, like, all right, yeah, dude, getting like some, getting salary, but then getting like a $9,000 check for being in 5 magazines that month, going, oh, and then after that, like, I was like, oh, dude, this is easy. I just got to like do it half-ass and do the photos and all that stuff and go have fun and party and all that stuff. And that's when you start to lose the plot, So I've kind of did some of the right things, And if you read some of the articles, like, Adam's work ethic is really good, because on a trip I'll be super just focused until the job's done, and then last day we'll go out or whatever. But I've had a few photographers kind of like get bummed that I didn't want to hang and do all this stuff. Billy Watts, for instance, who's a very known photographer now, he's like, dude, I didn't like Adam on this trip. Like, he was kind of unsocial, and he said he didn't want to go see the monkeys, and we were in Costa Rica. The waves were flat and we weren't getting anything done. And then when he came back and sold all the shots, he realized, and he wrote a thing in Mundo Rad, like an article, and he talks about how he didn't like me, and then he realized, okay, he was trying to make money and do stuff for his sponsors. So
Yeah. Okay. So you're quite a late bloomer.
yeah, dude, full on. And that's one of the things is like, with a lot of these guys, like say my brother or a lot of the older guys and the pros, they'll write guys off really quick, like, oh, he's not going to make it because of this. And then I'm like, well, dude, and not that I like made it, but I had 11 years of salary where I'd never had to work, where I could have done a lot better, where, the things I did is what messed it up. It wasn't because I bloomed late, and maybe that's what they're talking about. But I think there's a chance. I know it's changed a bit, but like, dude, guys can come up. I mean, there's some guys out there that are really good that don't have the financial backing, but if they find it, they could be world tour guys,
So once you did that first comp and you kind of realized, oh, hey, I'm actually okay at this, I could maybe get good enough to be paid. Did you seek coaching? I mean, how did you get to that next level?
Dude, no, you know what? I mean, I had a coach before that for just a little bit, and he was the worst. I'm not going to say the name and all that stuff, but he really just surfed, and that was it. And it was like super early, and I'm not a super morning person. It was like, dawn before he had to go to work, and it was all about him and all that stuff. And so you got to watch out for those coaches with all the ego. You got to become pretty selfless, and then you got to, really get into the psyche of these guys, which makes you get close to them and stuff. But we'll get into that. But no, I didn't get a coach. I just I changed my board sponsor, and that helped a lot. I went over to this guy Dan Taylor from Newport. I don't know if you know of him, but those boards worked really good, and that was during like the Pro Junior stuff, and really turned it on. Yeah, no, I mean, I just kind of figured it out. I call them clicks, like when I'm coaching guys, and I just started clicking, like. I just, you call it leveling up or whatever, but I just kept doing it over and over again, and I was pretty focused on that stuff.
So what, a practical example, what you did a turn that was a little faster than your usual turns, and you remembered it, and you thought, I want that feeling again?
Yeah, it's, I'm kind of my brother sits into all his turns and all that kind of stuff, where I'm more kind of like, have more like spontaneity, like so I think what it was is, I got good at airs. I was also really aggressive into the lip, so like right when I stand up, I'm on, like, and some guys will say I do too much, which is a valid point, but it gets the job done too, so if I just want to get up into that lip, and, I'll do like, a lot of photographers, I just posted a little thing on my Instagram, a lot of my shots, dude, my head or my hands cut off of my airs, because they don't think I'm going to do that. It looks like I'm going to do something else. I do something else on it. So I think that's kind of cool. But yeah, I just that was one of the things. And then yeah, I don't know. Chris Malloy told my brother Micah, like, and I remember the day exactly. It was a perfect day in Ventura, and there's air sections, and I was surfing with some of my buddies, my best friend Jameson Kane, who's a smoke jumper in Alaska, and I was surfing good, and Chris was just down the way, but he went and told my brother Micah. He's like, dude, I saw your brother surfing, and I've never heard of him, and I should have heard of him. And that was when I was like 17 or 18. And Micah was like, dude, I don't want to tell you. Your head's going to blow up. But somebody said something. I'm like, dude, just tell me. Just tell me. And it turns out, like, I look up to Chris Malloy probably more than most because you know where you stand with him, you know? There's no gray area. There's no, like, tricks or something, you know? Like, he's just a solid dude. And, you know, my brother Taylor would tell you the same thing. But coming from him, that was huge. And maybe it did blow my head up or something. I don't know. But
So that inspired you?
yeah, dude, it inspired me for sure. It just showed me that I was doing my job right, you know. For having some, you know, living legend, you know, to me, say something like that was huge. But right, you know, at that point, I was really just excelling, you know. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And did you have, during that time where you were on a salary, did you have a coach at all? Like, did you have a good coach?
No, dude, and I wish I did. You know, I wish I had more than just a coach. I wish I had a mentor because there was a lot of things I could have done better, you know, in hindsight. You know, stay in, you know, like, you know, don't go out, you know, worry about chicks later, you know, and I tell my guys this now, like, it's like, you know, party after you've already won, you know, like, really there's nothing to party for. Yeah, it's cool, live your life, have some fun, for sure, but we almost took it to the extreme, but that's how it kind of was back then, you know? Like, you'll hear Mick and all those guys say, it was pretty easy to beat people out at you know, Dawn Patrol at Bell's because everyone was hungover all the time, you know? So we grew up watching those guys and, like, those lost videos, so we're like, we just implemented it. Okay, this is how it is. We've kind of made it, so we can kind of do that, which we never really made it. Like, I was a sea surfer, you know, like, that had the potential. Like, a lot of guys were like, dude, you're going to be better, you know? You're going to be better than all that, you know? Because I can kind of just, you know, play. I can get on a dirt bike. I can do it, you know, that kind of stuff. But
So you're naturally you find all sports easier than most people?
yeah, I mean, I can't talk for everybody else, but yeah, I mean, I can, yeah, I've always been kind of into everything, you know, like good at everything, but never a master at anything, you know, where my brother, you know, drive beats talent every time.
So have you done quite motocross or trail riding or?
Yeah, well, I did the race around the lake. My friend Shane Trittler does, and that's my friend in Malibu that is out in Mojave Desert right now. But he's like a.
But when you were younger and before you sort of won that first comp, instead of surfing, you were.
I'd go up to Ballinger, so I'd take the 33 out of Ojai, and I get car sick, so I'd throw up on the way there and I'd throw up on the way back, but I'd have a great time when I got there. Yeah, I just rode dirt bikes, you know. We grew up pretty poor, but my mom figured out a way to, you know, I don't know, credit cards or whatever, but to get me things. So I was like the only kid out of like my poor friends that had a dirt bike, so I had to go ride by myself all the time or bring somebody, and they'd just crash my bikes all the time and do all that. But yeah, no, like I'd just race BMX and I'd just do it all by myself, literally.
What were you seeking then?
I have no idea.
Adrenaline?
Direction? I don't know.
Like just the thrill of the jump on the bike and
Yeah,
speed and.
Yeah, I love well, for me it's pretty rad because you can. It's unlike surfing. Surfing is the hardest sport in the world. Where dirt bike riding, you go out there, you can redo it, and I mean physically, I think dirt bike riding is the hardest sport in the world. And so, to go do those motos and I mean, their cardio is jacked and their grip strength and everything. You know, adductors in their legs. I mean, just all that stuff. But I mean, I'll look on YouTube and see some trick tips, and I can go implement them, and I can get better in a day, which I think was rad. But I just love dirt bikes. It was just something I was just obsessed with when I was a kid, you know?
Yeah. So you were very self-driven to learn dirt bike tricks.
Yeah, dude, 100%. And I like to jump more than do everything else. But I went and did this race, and I shouldn't have, like, Shane Trittler's an ex-pro, and he has, like, a board-out 450, YZ 450, and they told me to come out and race and all this stuff, and he's so busy because it's his event that his bike I was going to ride didn't have gas. I didn't walk the track. I didn't get to do anything you're supposed to do, right? And like I literally got gas like 5 minutes before the heat, and I got on this line with like 200 people, and everyone was revving it up and all this stuff, and I'm like trying to like calm myself down. So I looked to the guy on my right, I'm like, "What's up, man?" Like trying to make friends, and they're just kind of dogging me. And then I looked to my left, I'm like, "You ever done this before?" And he's like, "What, man?" Like I'm like, "Okay," and I just break away and I get the whole shot, and first turn, second turn, and then everyone backed off on the third turn. And I was like, "Oh, dude, I'm gonna win this thing. Like, I got this." And you get better and you settle in after a while, and your arm pump goes away, and um, everyone sat back because there was soot on turn three, which is like it's like 4 foot deep powder, like talcum powder that looks like hard ground. And I came into it hot, and you feather your front brake to bank, and my front wheel washed out, dude. And I was probably going like 45. And I remember it was left wrist, face, tried to bring my right hand up, couldn't, so it tore my rotator cuff in like 4 spots, broke my left hand, my humerus hit my subscapula and fractured the head of it, and I I crawled off, and when you hit the ground that hard, I don't know if you ever hit the ground that hard or anything like that hard, you have to see, it like takes a few minutes to see if you're gonna like die. And then your adrenaline's really high, and cause I didn't really feel it, like I felt like, oh, I went over there and I was out, like knocked the wind out of myself and all that stuff, but I didn't feel the other stuff. So, and I'm looking at the crowd watching me just eat crap on the third turn at the beginning of the race, and I'm like, I'm only get starstruck around a few, or I never met Travis Pastrana, but that's the guy I look up to like the most. Him and like Navy SEALs, like those are the craziest people in the world to me. And I've never met Travis, but I was like, what would he do? He'd get up. He would crash like 20 times and break his leg in a Supercross event, and then quadruple or triple and land out in the flats to win. Like, so I don't know. I just got up, and I think I finished, and this is like beginner, but there's good guys and
You got up back on the bike.
got up, and that was first lap. I had like 8 more miles to go around. Got back up, and I finished in the top 10, I think, out of like 60 or something.
Wow.
Like that. Yeah. So, but I was like so dazed, and I literally thought that I'd have internal bleeding. I would just die on the bike. Like, no joke, swear to God. And then after the race, there's a picture of me with like thumbs up, Travis, and then I couldn't lift my arm. And then my hand was like, it looked like I had a blown up doctor's glove, and I'm like, is this normal? I can't lift my arm. And they're like, oh, dude, you tore your rotator cuff. I'm like, oh, wait. And the next day I had to drive stick home, and I drove with like my forearm. So I was shifting with my forearm, and I was driving with my forearm like 3 hours, dude, just in the worst pain ever. And then it took 5 months. I didn't get an MRI for 4 months because I think they're expensive. I didn't have insurance, And they're like, dude, it's black in there, but you'll be okay in a month. And I'm like, no way, dude. It's been 5 months, 4 months. You'll be okay in a month. And yeah, I don't know.
Wow, that's a gnarly story.
Yeah, it was
It
gnarly.
reminds me of the Denny Way. Have you seen the Denny Way when he jumped the Great Wall of China?
Oh, dude. I did see that, but I don't know the backstory on that.
You should watch the doco.
Oh yeah, it's sick.
Yeah, that's interesting. So like at the time, like the race and the thrill of the race was more important than your health.
Yeah, no. It wasn't the race. It was for me, like, it was a really proud moment of myself to be able to take a beating like that and get up and keep going. So I really think I'd kind of gotten to the wrong thing. I think I should have been, I should have been in this, try to be a SEAL or something like that, because that's something that I pride myself in,
But you must have had similar experiences in surfing.
Yeah, surfing to me, like, is a bit more scary. Like, so watching the Momentum Generation film, and kind of just, no one ever told me, like, okay, you got to go prove yourself in Hawaii. Like, you got to be a pipe and all that stuff. So I kind of like avoided those spots. Like, I wasn't a big wave guy at all. I was more like kind of technical. I wouldn't say technique, but I like to do tricks and that kind of stuff, have fun. And watching that movie and just kind of seeing, for one, seeing where everyone comes kind of from the same place back then, like alcoholic parents, all that stuff. But just listening to that, no one really, put me in a headlock and said, dude, you got to do this, And I didn't really get comfortable with big waves until Ricky Whitlock and I went to Spain for Trans World, and we surfed Mundaka, and it was like 25 feet. and I broke my 6'6" first wave, standing in giant barrels, no handed backside, and just broke every single board and just took it. Now, there's a picture with me and a broken board. Ricky Whitlock is a big wave surfer. He's smiling. I look like I've seen a ghost, and I have a broken board in my hand. And there's a lot more to come. But at the end of that, I was fine, and that's kind of changed me. It was a little late though, like I'm all right in big stuff now, to an extent. But back then, that was something that was like an Achilles heel for me for sure. When you get worked when you're a kid, it stays with you for a while. So that's why I kind of encourage people not to push their kids too hard, too soon, because that will stay with you. I know some pros right now that when they were kids, they didn't surf big waves. Mason Ho surfed Val Reef inside Sunset more so. When he was a Grom, he didn't really charge, and now look at him. So it's something you can overcome for sure. But it's also something you're born with, but you can overcome it if you try,
Yeah, well, extreme events tend to either make or break people. It sort of either drives you to get better or makes you realize it's not for me.
Yeah, dude.
And for you, it drove you to get better, right?
Yeah, I did, but you ever been out the back? I think Sunset's one of the scarier waves because it's moving mountains, dude, and it's so shifty out there. And Taylor took me out there when it was, I don't know, it was solid, like, over 20-foot faces for sure. Hawaiians would probably call it like 8 or something, but but I was out there going, whoa, this is crazy. I don't even know where to sit out here, and it was big and gnarly, and I think I ended up paddling in, but I tried to grab, there's so many boards in the channel. I tried to save someone's board, and that almost drowned me because they tried to take me over to Cami Land and all that stuff. So I was like, F this board, I'm going to go in and just, take the shame of it. But I think he was really trying to prove a point, like, hey, dude, you don't have this big wave stuff, and I'm gonna show you right now. So,
when you were doing motocross when you were younger before surfing, I'm thinking that maybe that taught you how to get in the zone.
Yeah,
to a flow state.
Yeah, you know what? That's actually probably a good way to put it, because you have to be on. That's what. All right, so with me, all those quick adjustments, they have to keep going. Like, I'm good at that. It's when it goes flat, like when there's that flat space, then my mind will drift, and then I've been spacing out for like a trail ride or something on a dirt bike. And next thing you know, I hit something I wasn't paying attention to. Everything kind of goes blurry. Like, I like things that are quick reaction, like martial arts, that kind of stuff. I like that stuff. Surfing, for instance, but yeah, that does put you in that zone. I need that, like, constant, like crazy reflexes, And I have astigmatism too, so I've had bad eyes. I was born with it, but my reaction time is good. I think we talked about that because you do stuff with vision and stuff, right?
Yeah. Can you just tell folks what astigmatism is?
Yeah. So from what I understand, it's the astigmatism's like, okay, most eyes are supposed to be shaped spherical, like a basketball. Mine are shaped like footballs. So the light gets refracted, or I guess not refracted, but reflected, or I don't know what people water refracts.
Refraction, yeah.
Okay, yeah, but it just kind of blurs things out. So say if I were to put my glasses on that are like super thick, everything would just get a little bigger, like, and clear. But that throws me off. Like, I try to golf with them, and I can't. But I can see where my ball lands finally. I don't have to have a spotter, but I can't hit the ball because my depth perception's off.
Interesting.
Yeah, dude, it sucks. I'm like, oh, this is cool, and then I'm like, whoa, where's that ball? Like, okay, it looks like it's there, but
you literally see things differently than others.
Oh, yeah, completely. When I put my glasses on, it's like, whoa, okay, like I can see all the details, and everything literally gets bigger, like a lot bigger. Like, for the people that can't see, I have my hands out, like your head would get like, I don't know, maybe 4 inches wider.
So when you're surfing, or even when you're on the bike, is vision a secondary sense to you? Is feel the main sense?
Yeah, probably feel, and then like not proprioceptive, but like my what's up?
Spatial awareness.
Yeah, but like I see things better. Like I'm always paying attention to kind of everything, but I see things better off to the side. And you do
Oh, your
this
peripheral vision.
peripheral, yeah. Sorry, I was thinking of that word last night. I couldn't think of it. Yeah, peripheral vision is actually better. So when I'm looking directly at something, it's blurry, but the thing next to it's clearer. So remember when I was telling you that I that I step in dog poop all the time because I never look down, like directly. I never like literally like Zuma. We have a big bulldog, and man, does he get me all the time. We're just in Big Bear, and I stepped in dog poop up there in the snow, and I was like, fuck, every time, man. But I don't look down because there's no point. So I kind of feel things out more. I think people walk, when you walk around like in terrain, do you look down and like,
Yeah, you'd kind of notice things, and then you look down.
yeah,
You
see, like I see things like 15 feet out, and then I remember what it's going to be like when I get there. And then I'm already going another 15 feet out. So I have it all kind of like memorized in my head, and that's kind of how I see things. But that's also how, like, how Shane was talking about, surfing is kind of something you do in the future. You're reacting to something that's going to happen, and that's how I see things. So like, if you're like, you guys ever been to a river and you're river jumping and all that stuff, I'll memorize the first 15 feet and deal with that without looking at it while I'm memorizing the next 15 feet. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I noticed that, like, and I didn't know if other people did that or not. So
No, it's a common theme that I'm been getting from a lot of pros is the feel of surfing. It seems to be more important, or what's a better word? It's more like the volume's turned up on the feel of surfing rather than what it looks like.
yeah, for sure.
Like you feel your way. You feel you're connected to the power source rather than looking for the power source.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I think you hit a certain level where you don't have to look at that stuff, like, and also, and if you did, it's all peripheral anyways. Like, I'm not gonna directly look at it. Like, I see what's gonna happen, and then you can feel you're in the power source, and then also like you kind of see the line of it, and you know what's gonna happen. Like you just know it. Like, I don't know, it's a feeling, and it's also, yeah, I think it's just a lot of peripheral because you're really focused on being here, and then once that thing gets steep, you can feel it. So you're gonna highline to come around or up into it or whatever. So I mean, I think it just kind of comes with it. A lot of practice.
Do you ever go surfing and you find yourself that you've lost touch with that feeling, and things don't go right?
No, like, I don't know. You see, like I haven't been surfing very much lately. I coached so much to where it's almost like, all right, I just been at the beach for 4 hours. I'm gonna it was good. Now it's bad. So they kind of come first. But no, I kind of feel that I'll lose physical stuff over that first. Like I won't lose that, but I'll lose strength. Or something like that. But if I train like the day before and get my nervous system fired up, I'll have that, But like, so did you see that like frontside air I posted the other day? It was like wasn't like quite a full rotator, but it was a pretty big one. And I hadn't surfed in a month or whatever, and I had that thing. And I was flipping around, and I felt my back leg give out and core, but I had that, like, by feeling, by pop, by timing. That was all on, and physical wasn't there. Yeah, you can watch it. I'm like right there. I spin it around, and I'm like, and in the water, I was like, oh, dude. Yeah. So.
When did you start coaching?
Man, if you look back, we went to El Salvador, and there was this guy Hunter, who surfs good. This kid Hunter, and I was kind of like the only real pro on that trip. We had like some friends and all that stuff, and there was a young kid, but he kept doing on your backhand. It's hard to. It was a photo trip, On your backhand, it's hard to get different shots because you kind of do the same turns, right points, and you kind of do the same turns over and over again. I just coached him a little bit on how to mix it up. I'm like, dude, you got 500 of those shots. I'm like, all right, so what are you going to do? Let's mix it up. Okay, we're going to have to blow that tail, so you're going to start that transition. Are you going to come up steeper and you're gonna transition into the lip and get that tail out and down the line. Mix it up. There's different stuff. Okay, now backside air. So I started. If you read the article, it starts saying. I think there's a part that says Coach Adam Knox. Blah blah blah. But like professionally, I started working with Aton Osborne, who's #1 in the QS right now, and he just made his heat yesterday in pipe. Started working with him, and then I went to the Czech Institute for corrective holistic exercise kinesiology, and then I was just approached by a few people, and I was building airplanes at the time, so it was like right after that, after your contracts go away, it's a real hard place to get out of, because a lot of us surfers are fairly prideful and stuff. You can't just go work. You can't just go work at a restaurant. It hurts your pride too much. And then once people see that, they're like, "Oh, he's done for good." And people want to see you fail, too. So you got to like hide and work at the same time. So there's a lot of my friends right now that are judging because they're hidden behind the scaffolding. But they still surf on a professional level. But yeah, no, I was approached just by a few people, and then I just kind of, with the Czech background and knowing how the body works and all that stuff, and then knowing the surfing, I kind of feel like you need all that stuff. And then I was just getting results, and people wanted it, and you could, it's a pretty fun life. You kind of get paid to surf still. So it's probably like, to answer your question, it's probably like 8 years ago.
Yeah. Well, why did you start? What inspired you to start coaching?
Nothing really inspired me to do it. It was kind of a high demand, and my friend Jeff Belzer, he owns Ventura Makos. I know you're from Malibu, so you know Malibu Makos. He owns a Ventura part of that, and he just was like kind of like testing me out, like, "Oh, can I use this guy for something?" And then I head coach for Ventura High surf team, coach for Ventura Junior High surf team, coached all the other top guys, did all this stuff, and it just kind of snowballed effect, and I had fun doing it. It's hard with the younger guys, because they're not quite there yet. Like I almost need someone to bring them up. But I have some guys, like say, I worked with Cole McCaffrey, who rides for Billabong and Oakley and all that stuff since he was 10, and he wasn't quite there then. But once we got him to a certain point, it's on, because now I just adjust their turns and give them different combinations and that kind of stuff, where it gets really fun. You can kind of surf through them almost, but there's that gray area with the little guys where you're like, man, like, all right, yeah, you got to get up, you got to work on your pop-ups, you got to do that stuff. So with my, New Trilogy, the elite surf camps that I do in the summer, where we're coaching, we're running mock heats, we're doing mini contests, we're doing the carving technique stuff, and we're doing all the video review, and we do that all week long with the training. That's fun. It's fun to see them go through all that stuff. But I kind of opened the floodgates for the Groms right now. So,
did you coach yourself when you were?
That's a really good question. I actually coach myself now. It's super weird. I'm getting better. Like, I'm better now than I ever have been, and I rarely surf. Like, I should surf more, and I need to, and I'm going to. I surf better now than ever. I just understand it more. I became a student of it, And I think that's probably the best advice to anybody out there is like, dude, look at the small stuff. Watch Mick. You don't look at his turn. Look at where he's looking as he enters his turn. Look where his chest is facing as he finishes his turn. Look how he transitions out of that turn. It's all these little intricate details, hand placement, breathing, everything. Like, look at the little stuff, guys.
Where did you learn that?
I just taught myself that. It's one of those things.
But why?
I don't know, man. I've always been like that. Just kind of.
So back when you started being on a salary for surfing, would you go back and look at photos and go, "That's sick, but what is my wrist? My wrist's weird. Next time I'm going to make sure my hand's in a aesthetic position." Were you that?
Yeah, kind of like, so would you say hands? My hands are actually always, I thought, were good. My hands are always like this. They're always leading to where I was going. But I wasn't flexible, so I was missing grabs all the time, right? So I'm like, I would touch my rail, but I wouldn't quite grab it. But no, not as much. If they were happy, then I was happy. That was the kind of thing. I wish I was like that, but I wasn't.
So when did it start? When did you start looking at the finer details of technique? Was that when you became a coach?
Yeah, when I became a coach, it was, when it's your job. I mean, I guess it was my job then, so it just depends on what your mind state is, dude. It's all to me in life, it's all state of mind. You could be a millionaire, like Taylor says, Taylor said in, Momentum Generation, it's like, all right, a guy could be, you know, bummed for winning a contest. The guy that got third was ecstatic, who really won, so, yeah, for me, it's all state of mind. And, back then my state of mind was like, F it, dude. Like I was trying to prove a point. Like, all right, because you grow up as your brother's already famous and all that stuff. Dude, you're getting chastised and ridiculed, and the sponsors you only got for him and all that, from him and all that stuff. And that wasn't the case. And there were some people I approached for sure, like Audio, and there was a shoe company back then that he was on that probably shooed me in for that. But it really made it a lot harder for everything else. So at that point, I was just like, dude, you know what? I made it. They can't take away my contest results. They can't take away my mag time. And now, all those people that just hated, like, for no reason, really, because I was real adversarial too, because I had so much coming at me all the time that everyone, I was a hammer and everyone was a nail, and or to them, I was the nail and they were the hammer. So I just kind of had this bad boy thing all the time. I started riding for no fear.
Is that part of what drove you, do you think?
Yeah, that drove me, which is the complete wrong thing to drive someone. That's the only reason why I didn't go as far as I should have.
So when you take on a new athlete, and you're looking for what drives them, or what?
Well,
are you looking for what drives them? Or
yeah, I definitely do. I mean, I look at all that stuff. I mean, coaching is mostly psychology. And I got a lot of, like, business people and stuff. They're like, Adam, you're too close to these guys, or, blah, blah, blah. You have to be. So it'd be better to have 4 clients or 5 clients that that could afford to pay you almost full time, and you could be with them all the time. Like that would get the best bang for your buck. But really, I mean, most of these kids are being driven by their parents. So I do look for in them a self-drive for sure. And that's going to be that. And the thing is, I'm also looking to see that drive kick in as well. Because right now, a lot of them are remote control surfers.
What do you mean by that?
Like, they're just, the people can have their dads on the beach and kind of like directing them on which wave to go and all that stuff, where they should have the intuition and heat IQ to go out there and surf their own heat. Like, okay, there's a game plan on the beach. And some people don't like this about me because I'm not going to be jumping around and acting like a crazy person on the beach. But the game plan's set. This is what's happening. It's changed. Okay, we watched the last heat. You saw who won. We identified why. Okay, this is your game plan. But the thing is, it's hard to keep a solid game plan out there because it's going to change. So they have to have intuition to be able to change with the ocean. Another reason why surfing is a harder sport.
Yeah, intuition. So you're teaching your athletes to be self-sufficient, self-reliant.
I do, and some people. I mean, I try to, and some parents don't like that. They want a full-on thing, or some athletes. I keep saying parents because I'm working with a lot of young guys right now. But a lot of these young guys, they're going to be, 15, in a year, and then it's different. And everyone starts backing off, and they just need to rise up, with me, and if they're not just progressing and clicking all the time, like I was saying, then I'm not doing my job, or they're not putting everything into it. Then we got to figure out where to go from there.
Do you talk about flow states and being in the zone with your clients?
No, I mean, flow state is something that you've talked about a couple times, and maybe you can enlighten me on
Well,
that.
it sounds like for you, it's something that naturally happens.
Yeah, that's it.
And probably if you're coaching naturally gifted athletes, they're probably naturally falling into the zone or whatever. When you're in the zone, time slows down. Like for example, you might see, wow, I just got a 10-second barrel, and then you look at the footage and you were in there for 1 second.
Yeah, kinda. Like for me, if I get scared or something like that, I'm able to go flat. Like,
What do you mean?
like say like in a fight or something like that, like no emotion, go time, go flat, like not flat to where no energy, but just nothing,
Neutral,
neutral.
just aware of what's going on.
Yeah, just like, all right, it's a very pivotal moment. It could go really bad or really good, and I think that, I'm just using martial arts or whatever for that reason. But yeah, it's like to be able to like just go, yeah, I guess that would be a flow state. It's like a state of nothingness almost. Yeah.
When you're just aware of what's going on now. You're not
Yeah,
thinking about
there's only one thing you gotta do. So, but I've also been in that. Dude. So like when I was, doing well in the contest, they told me not to do contests. Okay, go be a photo guy. And then when the contest got popular again, we had to go back to it, and I had to relearn it. All those butterflies, all that stuff, they all came back. You almost have to establish, I almost say like control the fear, because the fear of others, you don't need to be that confident. It's like their confidence drops, so you can just be you almost, if that makes any sense, right? Because if not, you're that freaked out dude, and these guys know that they can beat you, but if you beat them a bunch, then you control the fear. They're like, oh man, like any heat draw, okay, and you know that, and you have that over them, and then you can go out there and just surf. Whenever you're just surfing, you're surfing your best. If you're going out there going, oh man, and you're over pumped and all that stuff, which I've did forever. It took me a long time. I had to beat these guys slowly to feel confident and know that they feared me and their heat.
Interesting.
But that's just me. Like it's a mentality thing. But it's all the same thing. You could word that a different way without that. And it wouldn't sound as crazy and aggressive. But that's all kind of what it is.
Yeah. So you're naturally getting into that flow state. So you're kind of lucky in a way, because a lot of people have to really work for that. Like,
yeah, maybe I grew up. We, just like Taylor said, you saw my dad on that Momentum Generations with the big old. Did you end up seeing that?
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, dude, best thing ever! Like best documentary ever in surfing for sure. But he talks about like shows a picture of my dad. He had like big old Fu Manchu, and he was a musician that was like on the rise, and he was a big fish in a small pond. So he was like kind of famous in Ojai and Ventura and all that kind of stuff. And then drugs and all that stuff messed it all up. And he talked about the fights between our dad and my mom. So we have the same dads and different moms.
Yeah.
And how they just wake up with black eyes and all that crazy stuff. Anyways, we grew up pretty hard, so I think you have to. It's a fight or flight thing, That's why I use that analogy with fighting. That's the way we grew up.
So you wanted to escape home life a lot of the time.
Well, escape home life, but also I wanted to protect. Like I have a huge savior complex, so so to be able to protect, but just seeing all that crazy stuff kind of makes you numb to it as well. So maybe that's where that flow state comes in. It's, you have to survive. So I'm flowing now because I know what I have to do to get out of here, or do what I have to do to get my brother out of there, or whatever. So that's probably where it comes from.
And like you said, back in the motocross days, you used to watch videos and then go out and try.
Yeah, no, for sure. You got to watch those guys, and I do it now to this day. And I didn't race a bunch. I only done a couple races, but
with motocrosses, I'm going to guess that those videos were very detail orientated, because you're hitting the same jump. Okay, if you hit this at 50 miles per hour, it's not going to happen. If you hit it at 53, it's on the money.
Yeah, well, it's physics.
It's physics, right? And it comes into play a lot because you're dealing with hard ground and crazy powerful machines. In surfing, we're a bit casual because it's water and it's like, But it sounds like what you've done is you've taken that detailed coaching element from motocross and brought it to surfing.
Yeah, well, now for sure. I mean, because back then when I was a kid, didn't have that stuff. I'd have a couple guys like, okay, you didn't have some weight on your outside peg when you're doing a left turn and all that stuff. Which I'm like, oh, it doesn't really make sense. Then you think about it, it actually does. It loads up and it grips that way. But yeah, you can go on YouTube and just learn pretty much anything. Where I want to post some more videos on YouTube. There's some guys out there, and I mean, those guys are getting 100,000 hits for stuff that's really simple. I don't know if I could do it because I might overload people, but
No, I
maybe.
think
I don't know. You've coached with me. I mean, what
exactly.
do you
So
think?
my personal experience would be that, I mean, this is for me personally. It's like you're the most detail-orientated coach I've ever worked with, which I really appreciate because it's, I guess in some ways I'm the opposite of you. It's sort of, I don't naturally fall into the flow state unless shit's on the line. Like if I'm surfing a slab and if I don't make the drop, I'm going to get pushed into the reef, then I'll click into the zone. But if I'm surfing my 3-foot beach break, it's so hard for me not to get lost in the future or the past. What brought me back was what brings me back. And what I learned from you is thinking about the details. So instead of thinking in seconds, I'm thinking of milliseconds.
Yeah.
So it's like, you're like, okay, what are you going to do now? And then what's next? It's like, and most coaches will break the bottom turn into one or two. Okay, do this, and that's your bottom turn. But you're like, now you've got this before the bottom turn, this during the bottom turn, this on the exit of the bottom turn. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for that. I know
It's
that's
good.
I know it's a pain. Such a pain.
It's good because that's what brings you back. There's no way you can change. So let's say a bottom turn lasts half a second on a medium small
Well,
wave. So
unless you're like Tom Curran, where it lasts like 40 feet.
let's say it lasts
Right,
one.
right.
Let's say it lasts 1 second.
Yeah.
Right. Most people won't have, or most coaches won't coach anything more than one or two things in that 1 second. But you were like, no. Come on, we can do this, this, and this during that 1 second. And if you really want to get better at surfing, and you really want to get better, you have to get better at a bottom turn, right?
Yeah. Sets up everything.
And if your bottom turn's really bad, then you got to get detailed, and you got to change it not just slightly. You've got to change it like a lot.
Yeah.
You do this, this, and this.
Well, especially if you're doing this, and this wrong. That's the
Exactly,
thing. So
but
you could break down every single thing so much. It's crazy.
But it's good, and I think that's
Yeah.
what people need
Yeah.
because it happens a lot in others. So you look at golf, like people are slow motion footage of their swing
Over and over again.
over and over, and
all
it's
they
the
do.
same.
Dude, golf and surfing, man, two hardest things. Your body can break down in just every little way. I love golf because it's so hard. I love surfing because it's so hard. Those are the reasons I'm attracted to those two things. Like you play golf for that, those few good shots, and surfing. I mean, at this point now, it's like okay, but I mean, I'm sure at your level, you're probably doing it for that one or two good turns that day. Something maybe you blew the fins out and it caught just right, and you got some tail release and back, and that probably felt just amazing. Probably going for that kind of stuff where, yeah, I don't know. For me, when I surf, it's almost like all right, it's kind of almost the same stuff, and then. Yeah, if I push myself or whatever, then it's a little bit better. But then, if no one caught it on tape, then it's like it never happened. So, I don't know. I'm definitely not that soul surfer, but yeah, I know it's there's so much stuff to break down.
Yeah, well, I think focusing on the details for me brings me into the moment more.
Yeah, that's rad though, and to be self-aware, like for you to even realize that is huge. That makes you super coachable. Like, as I was coaching you. I saw you trying it, which was rad, but it made your surfing so much worse because you were trying to figure it out. And then getting that text or that call 3 days later going, dude, I'm surfing better now than ever. That was huge. I was like, heck yeah, like that was epic. That's what I want. And sometimes you have to detrain somebody before you can move forward, like you were trying to run before you could walk, and there's all these energy leaks and body leaks and all that stuff. And if you can get it right and you can feel it, once you feel that that acceleration and your board push back into you and you push through the turn, that's on. But it takes so many things, like eyes first. Then you turn your head, then you turn your head, then you turn your chest. After you turn your chest, then the arm comes through. After the arm comes through the hip, and the end of the whip is the crack of the whip is that board, So everything has to go down pretty much, but it comes up first because it comes off the bottom. But it's hard, It goes.
But you you have the the confidence to be blunt. Firstly, a lot of coaches like to be politicians in some way, like be nice, and I think as surfers, if there's something you're doing wrong and a coach sees it, I mean,
It's their duty to tell you.
exactly. I
That's
agree.
what you're paying them for.
Yeah, yeah. And you might lose some clients because of that, but I think the ones that appreciate and get gains from that are going to be the ones that are serious about it, because the bluntness and the attention to detail is. I mean, I've only coached with you once, but I would say that's your strength.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And and that kind of came naturally. It's like, like you were saying, you might lose some clients and all that stuff. And that's the thing about me is like, I try not to have too much, kind of, BS or whatever. Like I want to be the straight shooter, and I'm not afraid to tell anybody what's up, from what I think, in coaching and life, any of that stuff, And I think the coaches that are out there that are doing that are just trying to make their clients happy and keep that money coming a lot of times. And that's not everybody, but maybe some guys are just nice or they don't see it. And I'm not anyone to be able to tell them, like I can't tell you that they can't see it, maybe or what, whatever the reason is. But I mean, you got to be pretty technical and like I've been surfing for 20 years now and 11 years of pro, and then I just signed that contract with Seaway, that Brazilian company, for 2.5 years for pro contract. I think you got to kind of have it all and/or study your butt off. Like if you don't have that like kind of pro and that level, I think you have to be a crazy student, or else it's kind of just theory. Like I've proven it. I can go do a full row. I can do the alley-oops and the turns and the cutbacks, and I know my weaknesses, and I'm not the best at anything, and I have a bunch of holes in my game, but I've done it, So when I talk about it, it's not just because I heard it on a podcast or something like that. It's because I've done it. I've proved it, and it's not theory anymore. I think it starts out that way, and then you figure it out.
Yeah, surfing is hard.
It's hard, dude. It's so hard. I mean, not to keep quoting everybody, but like Kelly said, I think on that thing as well, he's like, oh, shit, I don't think it was on that. It was on Joe Rogan. He's like, dude, I know guys that have been surfing for 50 years that suck, and it's because no one ever told them they sucked. And you can tell them in a nice way, or you can just be like, hey, dude, it's crazy because I coach so much now that I want to let people know, and people might take that offensively, which sucks because that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to help them out. I'm like, here, my bro, here, try this. Oh yeah, okay, like bro. I'm like, well, you just try it. Just try it.
Well, on that note, what's in the average everyday surfer you see down at the beach? What's the most common problem you see?
Oh man, there's a lot, man. There's a lot. With the youth, I would say what I'm working with now with a lot, with the younger guys is they don't highline. Dude, okay, if you're high on the wave, it's like drop. Okay, if you're high, it's like everyone's dropped into like a half pipe or a quarter pipe if they skate, right? You accelerate, right? So think of a wave as like a quarter pipe or a half pipe or whatever. And if you're high, like Felipe Toledo stays high, if you're high, you have speed on tap, right? Potential energy, right? It's sitting there, and you can drop down. It's like a boulder rolling down. Boulder is stuck, and then it gets loose and it's rolling down. And if you stay high, and/or utilize floaters, right? Like lip line floaters, not ones. The ones you on the roof. They reach like a terminal velocity where they start to slow down too. You have a certain point where you need to exit, and it's kind of like a more of an ending maneuver. But that speed float where you just get up and you're off-centered and you're loaded up and you're gonna come up around, and as you push down over your board as you drop down, that's the highest line you can get. You can't go any higher than that unless you're going to air and like land on the transition perfectly, which we don't really do. But to highline and do floaters, I think is the people that aren't using them because they're functional, they're conjunctional, right? They link you up into the next turn. They slingshot you. So after a floater, you'd usually go about 10 feet over a section or longer or whatever it is. And then you drop down and you're going to go straight off the bottom. You're going to load up off the bottom, come straight back over, vert into the lip. Hey. So that's 2 for 1 right there. Not only is it functional, it's points. So that's one thing. And another thing too is like a lot of people, they don't like to be in that low position. I remember when I was a kid, Taylor's like, dude, I'm gonna get a rope and tie it to your hips and tie it to your board so you stay down. But the thing is, what he should have said is, hey dude, go do wall sits, go do squats, go get down in that low position to where you freaking like it and you can stay down there. Because I didn't have the physical strength to do that, and these kids don't either. So that's where right now I'm like, all right, you guys need to build up here. Gym, carver. Okay, now let me see what you're looking like in the water. All right, okay, you can't be back in the water for a while. Like surf, go practice. But I need to see that physical ability, because I can coach you to death. But if you physically can't do it, there's no point. I'm wasting everyone's time and money.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. That. It's two big ones. Yeah, like Highline. Like you mentioned to me last time. And
dude, look, watch like Momentum. Like watch all the old videos. All they do is floaters, but it makes sense. Yeah, and then let me see. The third one would probably be.
The second one, getting low.
Oh yeah.
That's just like. It comes back to basic physics as well. If you stand up straight with your knees locked and your hips locked and someone pushes you, you're going to fall over. But if you're down in a fighting stance or a good low surfing stance, no one can push you over.
Yeah, that neutrality stance that we do, with the hinge back, all your muscles are loaded up, and you can always go up and down when you're low. When you're up, you can only go down.
Exactly.
But when you're up, your hips want to come forward with most people, right? The deviation of the hips, all that stuff. So to keep that butt back and be back in that position, I mean, you guys can try it at home. Stand straight up and have someone push you. Okay, now take a big breath, blow your core out, 360 degrees, so big fat core, and then bend your knees and keep your back flat as you hinge, and then now have someone push you. You're not going anywhere. That's what we put into all our training. That's how we call it, neutrality. I know it's here in Carlsbad, and I guess I'll plug that a little bit. It's a place that I thought of, I just thought it was, exactly what I needed. It's like you were asking if I had coaching and stuff. I didn't. I needed a place like this. I needed like a place where I could walk in. Everybody wanted to, I was everyone's case study, because everyone brought something else to the table. One-stop shop for me to reach my ceiling. You may not be the next Kelly Slater. You may not be making the tour. But if you want to go do the QS and all that stuff, you need work. We all do.
Or even if surfing's your chosen craft and you just want to get better.
Dude, 100%. I mean, I actually wish I had more clients, like you, or that just wanted to get better and that were stoked on getting coached, But I think ego gets in the way of a lot of people,
It's part of the culture as well. Like, you look at golf, everyone's getting lessons. Tennis, everyone's getting lessons because it's part of the culture.
Right.
Surfing, there's at the moment.
It's like cliche.
It's changing, but there's still that.
But when they grew up, it was cliche. Like the guys our age, it was cliche to do that stuff. So, it wasn't cool, So, it's understandable. But I get so many things on Instagram, like, hey, when are you gonna do an adult surf class? I'm like, I'll do it whenever you guys want, and then I never hear from them again. So, but yeah, everyone thinks that I'm just like straight up kids and, juniors and all that stuff. And yeah, it's good to get them young and coach them up so they're good enough to work with them when they're older. But I would love to work with a group, let's say 4 dudes wanted to go out and get coached and trained and videoed and video analysis. You're going to get better, man. All these people, most of these guys, they're in a prison, man. They're not going to figure it out. It's going to be hard. It depends. But, dude, what I think I give is freedom. I'm at a point on my surfboard where I have freedom. I can do what I want. If I want to go float something and do a 360 out and an air reverse and all that stuff, or a cutback or whatever it may be, I can do. I'm pretty free in that sense. I'll be able to paddle into Chopu or anything like that without hitting the ground and dying, but when it comes to just surfing, man, I have freedom and it's so much better. Matt, I remember being a kid, and that's another thing. It's like I'm able to go back to where these guys were in my head and go, all right, yeah, do I remember exactly what that was like? So this is what would help that, you know. But they're locked up, and they're not going to get unlocked until they figure it out, you know. So the whole thing, you know, is to go from A to B, right? The quickest way. Because if not, you're gonna have that guy that's in his van thinking he's shredding, but really he's just, you know, he's just living the dream, and it's all a dream.
Yeah, which is all fine until you take that attitude on a surf trip and you hit the reef and realize, oh, I'm not that good, or you realize I can't even keep up with that wave.
Yeah, right. And those are two easy things right there. So you said hit the reef. So obviously he doesn't know that he needs to take, or she take 3 or 4 more paddles before they stand up. You got to get under that thing, right? That's how you correct that. Maybe board up. And then also, if he can't make the wave, he's obviously not staying in the energy of the wave, because you're using the speed of the wave when you're on it, plus the speed that you generate yourself, right, with your muscles and in your lines. So you add those two together, and you're going 30 miles an hour. But now if you're sitting at the bottom of the wave and just doing little the wave is like almost like it's catching up to you and it's barely moving you, right? You're not using the wall and everything else. So I mean, really there's no energy there. So I would tell that person, okay, use the whole wave, go to the top, bend your knees, and push on the way down, and then reload. It's all about that pushing and reloading. Like, you know, muscles are like rubber bands. You stretch them and then unstretch them, but you don't go all the way. You got to keep some tension there, right? There has to be some tension. If you go all the way into that kind of dark spot, like say if you do a squat and you go too deep, then you got to come out of that. But if you squat just the right amount where your hamstrings and everything else, they stretch out, and they want to go back the other way, right? So you got to keep it there. You don't want to go, and that's just another thing we work on is just that stopping power. Surfing's all about that stopping power. It's all flowy, and then as you come down, like look at Dane Reynolds, he goes boom, he stops and just explodes out of it, right?
Kind of like jumping and landing.
Yeah, but jumping and landing soft.
Yeah.
Right.
Like
you don't want to just go. Ugh. You want to go. You know,
like,
you want to like absorb the ground.
Yeah.
And then you want to be able to jump out of that again, like load up and unload up. Yeah, load up and unload. Yeah. So, but yeah.
Is there a surfer you look to learn from? Like, who has the best technique, you think?
Ooh. Well, yeah. There's 3. 3 when I was growing up for sure. My brother always like you gotta, you know, the show, good times, all that stuff. I mean, really nobody's got a better style, right? Mick Fanning, like Fanning the Fire, his like first movie. It's one of my favorites. And I just was watching Momentum Under the Influence when he was like 21 or 20 or something like that. He was all like wiry and a little more fast, like wiry, you know, whatever, like really whippy back then before he put on the meat and the muscle and all that stuff. He still is, but not as much. He was kind of wiry and whoosh. And Taj. Yeah, Taj. A lot of people like would say, oh, either surf with Taj or Mick or whatever. And then I got, who was the guy that surfed like Taj or like Mick, but like fell short. He rode for Oakley. He was a blonde guy. He looked like Mick too. He was on tour for a long time. People would start saying that, so I kind of he fell short of Mick. You could tell he like tried to mimic Mick and made the tour and all that stuff, and then kind of didn't quite get there. Mick mastered what he did, and then I fell short of that stuff. But yeah, it was like a mix of those guys. Sometimes guys would paddle up like, hey, I think it's 'cause I look like Taylor. Be like, oh, you surf a lot like Taylor, and be like at Rincon or something like that. And then I've different times like, oh, you surf like Taj. It just depends. Like, but the thing is, I think with athletes, you should be able to mimic. I think the best athletes are able to just go, okay, and copy somebody real quick.
But in terms of like halfway through the re-entry, where are your eyes looking? Where do you get those details from?
Well, that depends. So if you were going to copy Taj usually would come through that turn and throw the tail and probably look just down and over, where Mick would come through a turn and do a hook and he'd be looking behind him. You know? They're looking to where their board is, their feet and their toe side rail is going to end up if they're on their front side. And if you watch Taj, he does a lot of like, does like that out the back almost, where he's kind of looking this way. It depends. Unless he's going to do like a full row or something like that, or like a tail throw, then he'll look over. But he does a lot of the kind of like almost like a check turn, but he has so much snap and stuff, and he's up in the lip, and he airdrops from that. So it just depends on that. But I think the best surfer all around, who I can't really figure out, which I kind of had a good idea the other day on what's going on there, but Dane Reynolds, dude, best surfer in the world still right now. We were just at a wedding with him, and Courtney was like, "That guy's a surfer." I'm like, "Dude, he's the best surfer." And she's like, "He doesn't look like a surfer." I'm like, "Dude, trust me, just trust me." I'm like, I don't know how much he surfs now or whatever, but I mean, we just saw him on that whatever that board testing thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. What was it called? Electric
Electric
acid test or something?
Yeah, it was on Stab. It was an electric acid surfboard.
But that's a good testament to, you know what, your board choice is pretty important, but your technique is always going to override, because he's surfing some pretty strange boards with good technique and ripping.
Yeah, no, he is. But I mean, I like how honest he is though too. Like, he's like, "Dude, I don't ride this stuff. I ride my shortboard, and that's it." And that's how I am too. But yeah, it's a testament to. I mean, once you're that good, I don't really think it matters. But on the boards that you could tell that worked well, dude, it's so crazy when he comes in that top turn. His back leg is just a hammer. But what trips me out the most, after he goes whoa, and he comes through that front side turn, and he does he's 3/4 of the way through, and he drops the hammer and turns his hips, and his board just blows up and turns 180. His eccentric load up or unload right there into concentric load is so smooth. He gets so much speed out of that when he just did a stop turn. He should have stopped. You see Kelly do those? He stops. See Dane do those? He comes out with speed, and then next thing you know, his knees are up by his freaking head, and he's loading up again. It's just the craziest thing. I remember when first chapter came out, his first video, and I was like, "This is even a fun video to watch because it's really unrealistic. Like, I can't do any of this." Like, he just did a grab rail turn, went underwater, and came out backwards. Like what happened under there? That would be actually a good thing for Stab to do, is film him underwater and show us what the hell is happening. Because I think he lets go and gets on his belly, and then he stands up. No, I know that's not what's going on, but I'd like to hope so I don't feel so dumb. And what's funny too is I'll have a cool little edit on my Instagram, and then I'll watch him afterwards. Don't do that, everybody. Don't. It makes you feel so stupid. Literally, on an average day out in the water or whatever, I could be one of the better guys out there, but don't watch your edit and then go watch Dane, or vice versa, because it makes you feel like a child. It really does. It's super gnarly.
You mentioned that you kind of alluded or hinted at that the fact that maybe do you think Taylor got as good as he is through hard work?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, I don't think he's the most. I don't think, and a lot of people have said this. I don't think he's the most talented surfer out there. There's a lot of guys that get away with murder. Whatever, partying, doing whatever, and he. Taylor's had his fun, and he's done all that stuff, but man, he loves to surf. All he does is surf. You're not going to see him on a downhill mountain bike. You're not going to see him on a dirt bike. You're not really going to see him do anything but surfing. And that's what he loves, And I love that about him. That's great. But I just feel like there's a lot of other things out there that I love, and there always has been. So, but yeah, I think that discipline, no one's more driven and more disciplined in that sense, but it wouldn't be hard if you loved it that much.
Yeah. Does he get very detailed orientated?
He's come up and he sat next to me and a kid, at Neutrality, and sat down, and we were saying the same things. He was just saying them differently, and then I would say it, and he'd be like, "No." But he didn't realize we were saying the same things. And then also, if you're working with the kid for a long time, he understands your terminology and not so. But also, it wasn't as more detailed. It's he's you want to do this and through. And he probably is, depending. And then once, he hasn't done it that much.
He talks more about the feeling rather than...
Yeah, I bet. I'm sure it's way different because he's just doing it for him right now, But once you have to break it down and you realize there's so many walls to break down with people, then you got to get detailed, It would be great if I could just be like, yeah, dude, you want to come up and you want to feel the wind in your hair. And no, I don't know. I don't know enough about that. And I wish. I mean, I'll show him my stuff. And I mean, actually, I just did a contest, the Warm Water Classic in Carlsbad, and he said, I'm like, oh, you got any, pointers? I think I made that heat or whatever. And I was kind of going on the medium waves because, again, like I hadn't been surfing very much and I was pumping. And like there's like some 10s out there, barrels and all that stuff. But I'd go on like the wider ones and go to surfing because I can manufacture scores. But I have a lot of like torque and hip throw and like kind of throw my tail and stuff like that. And he's like, dude, you're a strong surfer. He's just like, your technique isn't that spot on. He's like, you should probably come into that turn softer and load it up properly instead of just dropping the hammer. But in my head, I was going, dude, I was behind the 8-ball. I needed to throw as much flare at the judges as possible. So I'm going to use my weapon, which is my hip rotation and my back leg, And then when I came in, a lot of the guys, that aren't as knowledgeable were like, dude, that was the sickest turn in the contest. Yeah. There were some better turns for sure, and it was pretty early in the contest. My buddy Ulysses was like, dude, that was sick. Or Taylor was like, that wasn't that sick. So, but he's right. I mean, it's actually something that I started implementing to my guys. I'm like, dude, let's go slow through that thing almost, and let's get it down before you start applying more pressure. That's pretty much essentially what Taylor was saying to me. So, thanks for the tip there, brother.
Yeah. Well, no, you said a similar thing to me, and because I think I had probably still do have a habit of being very like snappy, and so I envisioned surfing as bottom turn up to the lip, bang, throw spray and fall back down.
Yep.
But then you made me realize no, you got to hold that position through the turn to maintain your speed, stay on rail, and then another change of direction back to the opposite rail. And for me, what it made surfing, because I think that bottom turn up to the top, that sort of thought process is how we sometimes see things when we're watching surfing videos. We see the highlights, right? Or more specifically, it's when we look in the magazines, that's the photo.
Right.
But that is only a moment of actually a
right,
all the way around.
Yep.
That snapshot just happens to be when the rooster spray was going up. We actually want the rooster spray to go all around with you.
Yeah, it depends. It depends. I mean, if you're gonna go into that kind of, I call them hooks. People call them carves. Mick kind of does like that hook. It's like a 3-in-1. He comes off the bottom, kind of goes into that rail turn, but clips the lip. So there's kind of a roundhouse, but there's a snap, and then there's a tail release hip throw at the end, right? So it's like a 3-in-1. Yeah, I mean, kind of what you were doing, I'm watching it in my head right now, is you were come off the bottom, and you were real quick to like unload off the bottom, which made you extend to hit the lip and do like a bash. And there's places for bashes, like maybe on end sections, or say that you drop in and the wave is like a TP, it had a big A-frame, so you want to come back at it, and the only thing you could do is go like oververt and bash it there, and then come up and wait for it to go to rail, and then do another turn, right? But you were kind of just like unloading and loading too much, and then also you were letting your body raise up as you went through the turn. So when your chest flares, your chest comes up, then your hips are going to come forward, and that's where a lot of things were falling apart for you. But you surf good, man. You have that stuff, but you have that, and it feels good to you. You're probably like, oh man, I just crushed that thing, and you did, but it's real choppy.
Exactly.
Technically unsound.
The reason I bring it up is because it's something very common that I see in a lot of average everyday surfers.
Yeah.
And it's that stop, start, go up to the lip, smash it, lose all your speed, fall back down, and do it again. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun.
Right. It's fun hit stuff.
But when you start learning, actually, if you keep your speed consistent and you're on rail through the whole turn rather than just bash, fall, surfing is more fun and you have more options.
Yeah, I mean, I talk about it as like, come off the bottom, and as you're coming up into the lip, if you look at Dane, he comes off the bottom really hard, and by the time he's like a foot or 2 feet up the wave, he's already oververt, and he creates like an S. So he goes top or bottom turn, and he comes up, and he's already on his other rail before he hits the lip, which gives him that crazy whip and explosion down. You'll see, okay, another thing I see that's bad in a lot of the kids is they start their transition into their turn way too late because they think it's going to send them out the back and do a blowtail. But really, if they started the transition earlier, lower on the wave, when they get to the lip on rail, that's when it legitimately would happen. These guys are going straight up, and as you climb this hill for so long, by the time you get there, you're like, ugh, and it's going to look forced and lame, and then you're probably not going to have enough speed to do it there anyways.
Yeah.
So
and you end up kind of bashing the water with the bottom of your board and the fins rather than the rail through under the lip.
Right, but you can cheat that too. So there's times to get light, and there's times to dig in and follow through. You know, like I can come up into a section like that that's soft, get light, get over the top, turn my hips and kick my back leg out to get the fins out. But that's just a technique of doing so. It's not super sound. It just depends. You got to have it all. You know, that's the thing. But if we were talking about what you were doing, and what you were saying is like that's a little more technique savvy. And then once you have that, you should move on to some other stuff. You know, once you have that, you can kind of do whatever. So
that you mentioned that when Dane's coming off the bottom and you get that moment where you're weightless just before you change direction.
Yeah, so like after he loads up, he's feeling G's, right? And as he feels those G's, that come up to almost flat transitions where you're gonna feel that weightlessness before you and you feel those G's again, right?
But you you don't want to be too extended when you're weightless. That was my habit. Like my body was like straight.
Yeah, you open up and you're also letting your arms supinate. For those people that can't see us, you know, like if you were to say like, oh, I don't know, and your hands go up, that's like supination, like you're opening up, right? Supination. So you roll out like that. You don't want to do that. You want to stay fairly, you know, almost how you would in gait, almost like when you're walking or whatever. But in that surfing position, you don't want to be open up. You're letting your back arm circumduct and supinate is to open up, you know. And to supinate is to accelerate, but you got to do it properly.
Yeah. Well, the reason I mention it is it's something I see with a lot of just everyday surfers is they're overextending off their bottom turn, and that through that weightless part, they're not compressed in their stance, ready for the change of direction. That only happens as they go into it, and that's part of the reason why they lose speed too. So it comes back to what you were saying, is like you got to be strong in that lower position.
Yeah. So you come off the bottom, you want to be here, and then you want to get that push, but you want to go right back into.
But see where you are now.
You're where you want to stay.
Most people, instead of being here, they'll be like here.
Yeah, well,
and then they've got to drop into it.
So that's where you see those segmental things.
Exactly.
So you're gonna see. You want to have somewhat seamless surfing. I mean, again, I'm not seamless at all, but I can see it really well. You know, with some work, dedication, maybe my brother can help me out. But it's hard, man. It's like when I get into bigger stuff, like bigger surf, where you gotta wait off the bottom and all that stuff. That's where I start to fall apart.
Interesting. That's right. That's where I'm better, actually.
Yeah, see, I
have more time to, yeah.
No, I'm like, oh, man, I'm down here for a long time. Okay, I should be up in that lip. But then you got to look at, like, John, where John, look at Margaret's. He was bottom turning, like, mid-face. You know, everyone's like, oh, bottom turning this, that. Dude, John was bottom turning in the meat. Like, when those bigger waves, the bigger, softer waves, sunset and all that stuff, you want to bottom turn mid-face. You got into the bottom in the flats, and you got to climb a freaking mountain to get back up there. So remember he was like snowboarding at Margaret's? Yeah. Because he was bottom turning like 3/4 of the way down, half the way down, and just getting that crazy top turn. So depends on that give and take. Where John, isn't the most sound technical surfer you would think, right? Like I've known John since he was a little kid, his mom Alex and all that stuff, but no doubt is he not the craziest surfer out there. But I don't know if you'd say he's technically sound. I don't know. Would you? I mean, it's kind of hard not to say that he isn't. But
I've thought about this a lot, and I've had clients because I always say to clients, "Hey, watch Julian Wilson, watch Mick Fanning, watch Joel Parkinson for good technique. Don't John's your favorite surfer. I get it.
Yeah, it's almost unrealistic. Like Dane, Dane, you could learn a little bit more from.
Yeah.
John, not so much.
Yeah, my theory is that John's doing all of the movements that just take Mick, for example, because he's so exaggerated with his wingspan and what he does, right?
Torque.
John's doing all that stuff, but instead of doing it here, He's doing it here.
Yeah, he's like a snowboarder.
It's more subtle.
Right.
He's doing the same movements. His timing's a little better, and he gets away with being more subtle.
He's got some crazy stuff that he does. But yeah, you're right. He keeps his hands down, and it's funny because I always tell my guys like, all right, elbow by your ear, and for your back arm and your front arm, like mirror your front thigh. But I have a kid from Finland right now that's getting good, and he's got you're talking about what I look for in kids. He's got the fire. Like he'll go out there and just be on it, trying to be on every wave and just destroy. But he keeps his hands down. And I've been like, dude, keep your hands up. He's like, dude, I can't do anything like that. And then you know what? He's coming together with his hands. I'm telling him to keep his hands up, but he's coming together with his hands down. He surfs a lot like John actually in that sense. This kid Ellie Perry. But yeah, he's a Finnish citizen, so maybe Olympics, something like that one day. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, and I've always thought John just had more of. Okay, imagine someone walking a tightrope, right? Or even if you start walking tightropes, you're going to be like this, right? Because you've got more control.
Yeah.
And you've got
see what would John do on that?
Well, once John got good, he'd be doing those same weight shifts, but he's doing it with smaller movements and is in a more
they're
relaxed
smaller
position.
because if your hands are that close to your body, you don't have any leverage.
No, but
yeah, no, I know. I get
it.
I get if you don't need it, you don't need it.
Because I think John he's like sprinting on ice. It's almost like he's going so fast and he's so on point that he doesn't need those big movements.
Yeah, and well, the thing is too, it's like you don't, like you were saying, look at like Julian Wilson. I mean, that guy's got the perfect spine position and everything, and he's more of a front-footed or a neutral-footed surfer. Joel Parkinson's a back-footed surfer, and that's a weird topic too, like on that stuff. Like so, John kind of stands straight up, and then he'll drop that back leg, and then when he does those hooks, he does like a crazy wheelie out of them, which is trippy, but comes out with speed. So, where I would say, don't do that.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Don't do it unless you do it. I don't know. If you can get away with it, that's cool. But for my guys, I'm like, dude, let's stay like somewhat traditional, and then you find yourself. Once you get past, once you get unlocked, once you get your get out of jail free card, you're not in prison anymore. With your abilities and physical abilities and your surfing IQ and all that stuff, then we can really turn you on.
Well, you have to learn the rules before you break them.
Yeah, I agree.
You got to know the fundamentals before you move away from them or tweak them.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I think. If not, I mean, with coaching, it'd be way too hard. It'd be like, all right, dude, like, okay, you have this. I mean, I'm kind of gonna do it with this kid Ellie. Work with his John-esque style. I mean, the movements are all still there. It's just like, all right, he doesn't want to keep his hands up, but we'll see.
How do you define style?
Ooh, I like kind of like sick style. Like I think like what I'd call sick is like, again, like Mick Fanning. That's like kind of not as perfect. He grew up idolizing Taylor, and now they're best friends and all that stuff. But he has his own thing. He's got a rounded back. He's got scoliosis, I believe, and he torques and twists and I don't know, just having that sick kind of predator attack is good, I think. Yeah. Being aggressive. Yeah. And then Dane, I mean, that guy's just so fast and aggressive, it's crazy. Like, it's trippy too, because like I'll surf with them and I know him and, somewhat, and, being from Ojai Ventura area, and, yeah, dude. He's kind of really mellow in the lineup, like, like you don't see him doing all the stuff you see him do. So I'm wondering where he does all that stuff. Because I've surfed with him a bunch. I'm like, oh yeah, he's doing whatever. It's never like, oh. But again, I don't surf with him that much, so I'm just wondering where the like 20-foot backflips and stuff are happening, so I can go watch.
What else is happening in your world?
Dude, I was telling you before this podcast started that. I had 3, good surfers from Portugal come over here just to coach with me, which was rad, real privilege, and that's rad. They found me on Instagram and liked the program and were following it, and through Neutrality and my own, and got to work with those guys. And now they want me to go. I guess the Portuguese local surfers are seeing Johnny Rapino, this kid I was surfing with, like just come back from California ripping. So his dad and this other coaching company wants me to go over there with like 8 Americans, and and meet up with like 8 of their guys and do like at a surf resort, in Portugal, and just bring the guys together, which is huge because surfing is all about meeting friends and traveling. Every time I went on a trip, I came back better. That's the best way to get better. And if you go on a trip with coaches, then that's the best way to get better. It's something I want to do for sure. We got some other stuff in the works. We're working on a project of, like a TV thing. I can't get into too much details with, but a little bit about that. Just kind of going around, helping people in need in their surfing. That's really what the basis would be. And then, just coaching and training, getting ready for this summer. I really want to implement some new things to the Neutrality Surf Academy. And it's for guys to stay sharp over summer, and maybe the guys that are kind of behind the 8 ball that need to learn heat strategy, that need the videos, that need the camps. So I'm trying to just do what Australians have been doing for a long time. I think that's where America struggles. So we're working on the permits and all that stuff, which are really hard to get.
Tell listeners what Neutrality is. It's
a
facility in Carlsbad.
Yeah. Neutrality is just this idea I had. I was like, man, Australians have been doing this, like, this camaraderie of, like, mentors and all this stuff. And, they've been kicking our asses forever. Like, they've been doing it right. I mean, they really care about their surfing, and they have surf clubs and all this stuff. And Neutrality, I thought, would just be a one-stop shop where you come in, all eyes are on you. Every athlete is every employee's freaking case study, and we discuss what needs to happen with them physically, with them technically in their surfing, and we hit on all those points, and we help out with sponsorship and all that stuff, and just teach them the ropes. I've done a lot of, like I was saying, I've done a lot of right things, and I've done a lot of wrong things, and hindsight's 20/20. So that mentorship and all that stuff. We do a elite surf camp, so it's just heats. It's not. This ain't no daycare. That's kind of what I'm getting at. And we do this thing called, it's a Neutrality Surf Academy, and our hashtag or whatever our tag is Art of Elite. So really, it's just like the fastest way from A to B, and to reach your ceiling and to stay sharp over summer. So we did it last year and it's successful. And a lot of people aren't going to do junior guards this year. They're going to come down and just work hard and hopefully show up for next season fired up and winning. So, and we have Katie Simmers on the team, who is the best 13-year-old girl. She went over for the women's ISAs in Japan and put a beating. She beat Sofia Milanovic like multiple times, and then came back, and I think she made round after round. She's kind of like a superstar over there. She surfs so good, like better than me right now. Katie Simmers, follow her. She's from Oceanside. She rides for the same board company as me and my brother, Chris Borst Designs, and she rides for O'Neill as well. But I was just with Chloe and Dino and his dad, and even Dino, dude, he's a tough critic. He's like, dude, that's the best girl I've ever seen, ever, out of all the girls at her age, ever. She's gnarly. She does every verses. She does, like, solid ones, like, and better rail. She rides the T1, which is more like you have to be technically a back-footed surfer and really tech savvy. Was my brother's model. She loves that thing. We like the T3. It's a little more user-friendly. That's how much better she is. She's crazy good. But yeah, we have her on the team. She mentioned us in Japan, and then rocks our logos. But she came back and won the Rip Curl Grom Surge. And then she won U18 ISAs, which is, the American, it's pretty much like Junior Olympics type stuff, right? And she won that. She's only 13 years old. She won U18. She's unstoppable.
Wow. Very cool.
Yeah, crazy. But yeah, so just building a team and all that stuff. But yeah, we're a one-stop shop for just to be the best you can be. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to facilitate every need the athlete needs, to be the best they can be. People usually don't reach or even see their ceilings. Their ceiling is where like your potential and your skills and everything come together with your willpower, and that's as good as you can be right there. And then you can go from there too. But a lot of these guys that are ripping, they're not trained, and they're not, they're cruising. Like, I don't know, imagine this is kind of a hard one. Imagine if Dane Reynolds trained and did all that stuff, like, could he be better? I mean, he's already the best surfer in the world. He probably could be. You'd have to say so. If your muscles are stronger and firing faster and your mind to body is clearer, like, how could you not be? Unless you're just like Superman, which that might be the case. So who knows?
Yeah, well, I'll fill in the gaps, like for listeners, is when I experienced neutrality, we went down to the beach, we surfed, you filmed, we went back to neutrality. You've got upstairs, you've got a room to watch the footage.
Right.
And then we went downstairs and went out outside of the building on the concrete you got the chalk, I got the skateboard, so we're drilling technique, fine-tuning technique. But then in the gym, we also you've got a DNS expert there who's really fine-tuning just athleticism in general. Right? Which...
Yeah, he's like a movement specialist.
Yeah. But athletic positional specialist, strength training specialist. It's such a good complement, those surf coaching, drilling the skateboard, watching footage, and training the strength and positions all in detail. Though that's the cool thing is you got the surfing and you got the detail, right? Whereas Mike, your business partner, he's got the strength and he's got the detail, as well.
Right. So yeah. So what I saw in video, I mean, also with checking DNS are pretty similar. So I could see the energy leaks and all that stuff, right? But I'm so focused on coaching that my training is almost like kind of dropping down a little bit, where he's just focused on the training part, and he's not a surfer. But an energy leak and anatomy and all that stuff, or kinesiology, it's all the same. Surfboard, no surfboard, running, dirt biking, whatever, it's all the same. It's human bodies. We haven't changed in a long, long time. So yeah, no, I'll see, I just filmed you, I coached you there, made some adjustments, and then we watch the video. Okay, all right, this is what's going on here. So we got to keep your hips back. We got to do all this stuff. So we train you that way. So you get your nervous system wrapped around it, and then we throw you on the cardboard and then go, okay, this is how you're really going to do it. And then when you brought your arm through and you kept your hips back, which you didn't want to do, you were accelerating out of turns, and that's what we wanted. So yeah, again, it's just a one-stop shop to get better.
Cool. And how do people get in touch if they're interested?
You can go to neutrality.com. My Instagram is Adam_Knox, and then Neutrality, it's with the I. Neutrality, or it's at Neutrality.
I'll put links.
Yeah,
on
and if you could throw some links out, that'd be rad. And yeah, there's a number on our website's kind of dodgy. We're working on it right now. Like I was saying, we just get caught up in all the other stuff, the services.
So Instagram might be a bit away.
Yeah, Instagram, like you can DM me if it has something to do with surfing. But there's a number on the website that goes to our, I guess he's our CEO, Pat, who's trying to put everything together. So if you want to work with me, you can call that number, set something up with Pat, or you can DM me. And if you're around, so we're in Carlsbad, San Diego, and yeah, I mean, if you have a goal, we can help you get there for sure.
Dude, thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah, thank you.
Told me life can be unkind, and the goals you thought you'd reach you can never find. 'Cause it's all work, ain't nothing free. Too bad you had to learn the expense of me. I'm tired of the lies I hear. Why do you feel the need to dismiss your acts of selfishness? Why can't you own up to your own greed and nothing to lose and nothing to gain? Just you're right where you always been. Nothing ever seemed to change. Nothing to move on. To be explained, you get what you deserve. In the end, it's really all the same. So much for my trust in you, my once longtime friend. You've done the damage that you honest to you.